What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Commish'd, where we're going to be talking about running backs. We're going to hit you with our top 15. Tom's going to be talking about running back duos we like, running back duos just to stay away from. And then I'm going to be hitting you with another new segment for us. It's going to be called The Ladder, where I'm going to be talking about my top 12 running backs that you should target in the early rounds of the draft. So I'll go over the top 15 running backs that we've been seeing in the early rounds. So, of course, it's going to be CMC. You got to go with Christian McCaffrey, number one. You can alternate Eckler and CMC, in my opinion, but Eckler's been falling number two. And then Bijan Robinson, he's shooting up earlier in the rounds, so he's fallen number three overall. And then we got Barkley. Of course, we understand with the contract, he might not even play, but I don't see that happening with him. And then Jonathan Taylor is in the top five, which I don't even have him in my top 10, which I don't think it's going to happen this year.
You don't have Taylor in your top 10.
No. I would actually put Chubb above him. Chubb's looking at number six, and then Derrick Henry. Of course, you can probably alternate those two because it's still King Henry. And then we got Josh Jacobs. I understand, again, same thing, kind of a contract situation, but I can see him kind of replicating what he did last year. And you got Tony Pollard shooting up with Ezekiel Elliott not there anymore. And then Stevenson, Hall, ETN, Harris, all those are all interchangeable. Of course, with Pittsburgh, they love running the ball, so I'm high on Harris again this year, even though he's kind of disappointing last year.
I know could have a bounce back year, though.
Absolutely.
I could see a bounce back year from him.
Right.
But yeah, like Ian said, as far as the contract stuff go, we're not going to get super into that. We're going to, like the list that we're putting out, that's under the impression that Barkley, Jacobs, Pollard, they're all going to be playing week one.
Yeah.
Right. So, obviously follow the contract stuff along, see how that plays out. But I see all three of them playing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then rounding out the list is just going to be Gibbs and Mixon. Mixon, of course, injuries possibly, but with that offense, he's going to get a lot of touches, a lot of chances, opportunities in the end zone. Definitely. So I'm actually, again, going to be on high on him. And then, Tom, hit us with your running back duos that you like.
Yeah, so the first duo I like, Ian kind of alluded to one of the guys in the beginning. It's for the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell. As long as McCaffrey's healthy, I don't think there's anybody that's going to be better than him. No. So him and then having Elijah Mitchell behind him as a kind of a two-headed monster, I think that'll be a force to be reckoned with for the Niners there. The other duo that I have here, I was going back and forth on, if I loved them or if I wasn't super high on them based off of last year. But I actually like them a lot this year. It's the Packers, right? So it's going to be Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. With Aaron Rodgers being gone, him taking a few of their wide receivers with him to New York, I think they're going to be focused pretty heavily on the run game this year. Aaron Jones will be able to catch it out of the backfield, run with it. A.J. Dillon, he's going to be that big guy who's going to be able to get a lot of the goal line reps. So I definitely see both of them having a pretty big year as well. As far as the running back duos that I'm not as high on, the first one's going to be the Washington Commanders. They have Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. Obviously, Brian Robinson was out for a while last year, so Gibson had the bulk load for a while, but once Robinson came back, it definitely started to teeter more his way. So I don't know if I want to jump on either of them to start the season. Maybe see how the season goes on. If they lean more heavily into one than the other, then maybe at that point snag one of them in a trade or something. And the other one is the entire Buffalo Bills backfield. There's just too many guys, right? I mean, it's going to be James Cook, Damian Harris, Nyheim Hines, even a few other guys that I think will be on the practice squad too to start. But there's just too many guys that are going to want the ball, going to want touches. So for fantasy purposes, I don't see any of them as a strong option to start out with.
No. And then you got Josh Allen too, taking some of the work away from them. I really like the Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon because I think a lot of people are almost going to think the opposite, that they're going to fall because Aaron Rodgers is gone. But I think usually, he's not a rookie, but with Jordan Love, he's going to need his running backs. And again, like you said, two of the receivers gone.
Right.
So I think they're going to be huge PPR. I would go Aaron Jones, of course, over A.J. Dillon, but you have to get AJ Dillon just in case because
Have him
what
as a
happened last year.
handcuff,
Yeah.
and you'll be able to get him probably like I would say around 4 through 6. You should be able to snag AJ Dillon depending how everything falls. But yeah, definitely get your handcuffs. But yeah, I like Aaron Jones a lot this year. I mean, it'll be kind of a safety net for
Yeah.
Jordan Love is in his first full year. Going to be starting. So yeah, I think that'll be a good pickup that not a lot of people are thinking about.
No. Yeah, people are definitely low on them this year. I've seen them falling. And then that'll bring us to the ladder segment. So I'm going to hit you with the running backs that I like the most, starting from the bottom to the top. Again, I kind of hit on it earlier. I'm going with Harris. I mean, I'm going to be targeting him as much as possible. If I can get him, early in the second round, I'd feel comfortable. I don't want to reach on him too much. But again, Pittsburgh's just a team. They run so much. And he had that foot issue last year that I think kind of hindered him a little bit. So I think he's going to bounce back this year.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on Najee Harris as well. I think they'll get kind of back into the running game a little bit, especially with another young
Yeah.
quarterback, right? I mean, and they don't have the most dynamic offense,
No.
so I think if Najee's healthy, he's on the field, a lot more this year. I think he'll be solid.
Yeah. Yeah, they're still old school. And then next up, I have Mixon. Again, I'm always going to be on high on any running back on a team that their offense is, super high scoring. Again, we talked about the Bills running backs to avoid, and they're high scoring. But with the Bengals, they're in the end zone a lot. Mixon, again, same thing, kind of has some injury issues, doesn't play the whole season sometimes, but he's a guy where he's going to get you points. Or even if early in the season, you can trade him late
Yeah.
after a couple games and feel comfortable about that. That's what I would use for him. And then Brees Hall, I do like him a lot. Again, with Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, he likes getting work to the running back. So I think that's going to be huge. I don't think they're going to be this crazy offensive powerhouse like some people think they are, but I'll take that all day, any running back with Aaron Rodgers. I like to see.
And you got to remember too, Rodgers is getting older,
Yeah.
right? So
True.
he's not going to want to stand in the pocket as much. If he can hand the ball off and have a steady running back that can take some workload off him to keep him a little bit healthier maybe throughout the year, I think I definitely think he'll jump. I'll jump at that.
Yeah. And then with, Patriots, another team that they run a lot. So Stevenson, he's a big back. He's going to get a ton of work this year. They don't really have that many offensive weapons. I can see him being down a lot in a lot of games. He'll still have to run to control it a little bit. He'll still get his touches, and they use him a lot. There's not anyone there really taking any work from him, at least at this point in time, that you'll see. And then I have Tony Pollard. I'm starting to lean heavier on just because, again, with no Ezekiel Elliott, they're another team that runs a ton. He's huge for PPR. He's going to catch a ton of passes. I can see him actually catching almost more touchdowns than he's going to rush.
Yeah.
That's just a personal opinion. But I'm really high on him right now.
I am too. My personal ranking, I think I have Pollard probably around my top 5 or top 6. I mean, I liked him a lot the last even 2 years when Zeke was still there.
Yeah.
I felt like he was taking a lot of reps from Zeke just because of how dynamic he was. He's so much faster. So I think with him being pretty much the only back there now, and then they have CD Lamb, Gallup, Cooks. They're going to be a really, really good offense, and I think he's going to be the focal point this year.
Yeah. And with him, like I've even fallen into if he was a backup, he wasn't good enough to be a number one. But when you're paying a running back like Ezekiel Elliott, you can't justify starting him, in my opinion, at least that's how the Dallas Cowboys probably looked at it.
I agree.
And then Josh Jacobs, again, we're not talking contracts or anything like that, but he had too good of a season last year to not consider him in the top. I would take him probably no earlier than 6, but I'd feel comfortable even at 5. Or worst case scenario if everyone else is gone. But he's had a couple back-to-back seasons where he's great. Same thing. They're going to have another quarterback there that's going to need some help from time to time, most likely. Yeah. And he's still a beast.
He's a workhorse.
Yeah.
Oh.
Then I'll switch him and Barkley. They're interchangeable to me. No contract discussions. He's their guy. There's no one else to me on the Giants that can produce besides Barkley. Like
Yeah.
the receivers personally are trash. Their quarterback's not great. So Barkley, that is their offense. So any day you can get him, I mean, you could take him third. That's
You could.
he's
easily.
gonna play. There's no way he's not.
He's got the upside, and
Yeah.
you've seen the videos all off season of him working out. So he's coming in strong.
Yeah.
He's ready. As long as they can get that contract situation figured out, which I think they will. Yeah, I could definitely see him easily top 5, and I could even see, like you just said, top 3.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that are interchangeable, but not many teams have a running back as that big of a focal point as the Giants.
Right. Yeah, and that's going to be kind of like the next thing. Like next up is Derrick Henry. It's still Henry. There's no one that's going to be better than him for touchdowns, yards per game. He's still a monster. I get it with Hopkins going there. He's going to take a couple of the touchdowns away, but who's their quarterback? So I mean, Derrick Henry's still going to be getting a lot of touches per game until he's unseated to be the king. I'm taking him all day.
He's the king for a reason.
Right. And then Robinson, Bijan Robinson. I know it's early to consider him starting to be in the top, but there's no one else there.
Yeah.
And then I have right above him, like I said earlier, I'm super high on Chubb. I would take him as my third pick because there's like a lot of the other running backs. There's no one behind him that's going to be taking a lot of the work. I get it. Deshaun Watson could take some goal line stuff, but they don't seem to want to do that with him too much from last year, what we saw, even though it was limited.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, just based off the year that Chubb had last year, same idea, his offseason, the cast around him, I think he's going to be a monster this year.
He's squatting like 800 pounds.
Oh, that's nuts.
I'm taking that. Just the squats alone, put him at 2. But and then I'm going again, CMC and Eckler you can interchange. To me, Eckler is going to be number 2 on my list. PPR machine.
Yeah.
I don't think he had under 18 or 19 points last year in a game. And he played all season.
Yeah.
I know injuries were a big concern with some people last year. So a couple of people probably missed on him, but I'm forgetting about injuries this year. I'm just taking him. The upside alone is worth it. Even if he gets hurt, you can trade him for another guy. And of course, number 1 for me, it's always going to be Christian McCaffrey. If he's playing, you're starting him. Same thing. He doesn't produce less than like 18 points, even 20 a game sometimes. And I can see him. I mean, he had a passing touchdown, catching touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
And rushing. He's going to be taking kickoffs for touchdowns.
He might be. Yeah, I mean, they could use him.
He does it all.
Yes. But no, I mean, he can catch it out of the backfield, pretty much I would say better than anybody else in the league. He's just so dynamic. You got to take whatever if he's available at 2, consider yourself lucky.
Right.
I think most leagues he'll be going 1 pretty unanimously. But yeah, he's unreal.
Yeah. He's a freak.
Yes. So yeah, that was the episode this week, talking about running backs, going into it pretty deep. Next week, we're going to be talking about receivers, doing something similar to with our top 15. Yep. Some guys we're really high on, some guys that other people might be high on that we're not this year. So definitely be sure to tune in for that one. Be sure to like and subscribe. We definitely appreciate that. Make sure you give us any feedback, positive or negative. We love hearing it just to make the show better. And, until next week, if we ain't your commish, stop being a